Happy Valentine's Day / Happy Lupercalia / Happy Chasing Out of the Wolves of Winter / Happy Pagan Fertility Festivals / Happy Spring / Happy Tomorrow is Half Off Candy, the most important part of this pointless holiday. Hopefully you are spending it with somebody you love or at least tolerate and not alone, sick like me. So we are continuing our exploration and reviews of things that I consider superhero role-playing games because somebody challenged me to put my money where my mouth is. So let's talk about Necessary Evil and what the hell? You seeing that? Must be a ghost. Necessary Evil and the Savage World superpower system that grew out of it. Necessary Evil was a adventure / short superhero system made for the very bizarre Savage Worlds role-playing game. Savage Worlds, the role-playing game, grew out of Deadlands when they switched over from using playing cards and poker chips, which I still think is an amazingly awesome idea, to a dice-based system. They created their sort of pulpish, Dead Worlds role-playing system called Savage Worlds. Now, Savage Worlds is very interesting because on paper, when you read it, you think, this doesn't work. This is ridiculous. It's D4, D6, D8, D10. Each one is you can buy up, and there are different tables for the different dice, and the bennies, and just this is a but then you play it, and you're like, oh my god, the system works. It's great. I don't understand, but on paper, it doesn't seem to work. It doesn't translate to, at least my brain, very well, to you actually play it. And then it's a very simple, though still strange, role-playing system that difficulty is built around dice numbers. You can buy higher dice, and then you buy archetypes and skills, and then inevitably powers. It's definitely a slimmed down, cut down version of games like GURPS, but is not quite as easy or open-ended as games like Fate and Fate Accelerated. Savage World tends to only work with certain genres, certain very pulp action genres, like Dead Worlds is the perfect game for Savage Worlds. So they tried to make a superhero game, and what they did was made an adventure called Necessary Evil. Necessary Evil was basically all the heroes were dead. So the only people that were left to defend the Earth from the aliens were the villains who had been in jail at the time when the alien invasion happened. So now the villains are being broken out of jail, and they have to deal with the job of protecting the Earth from the aliens who are, killing everybody. And how well is a group of villains going to work together? How well are villains going to act in the role of saving the Earth from aliens? It was a very interesting concept. And in the back was their build your own character section. The challenge was, what couldn't you build with this very unusual system? And then that system grew out to become the current Savage World Superpower supplement. And I think they redid Necessary Evil to be a bigger, more interesting campaign. So because Savage World looks so strange on paper and doesn't really translate well to you actually do stuff, the challenge was, what couldn't we build? What characters did we have in mind that couldn't be built, or what could we build, or what could we build that broke the system? My friend played an invisible speedster, which pretty much was a very broken character. And then once that character also picked up flame powers, an invisible speedster who left a trail of flame behind him. That was a pretty, he found a way to break the system. I found that the system doesn't do invention type characters well, because I was playing like sort of a mad scientist that they'd broken out of jail called Professor Mad. And, who's always trying to come up with new wacky inventions. And for a pulp action role-playing game, that didn't really have a good design of how can I cobble together new technology to do these weird things, like make a shrink ray, because I really wanted to make a shrink ray. You know, because that seems like the kind of thing that an evil scientist to do. Or, you know, make the Infanto Ray. It's like, I want a beam that turns people into babies. And it's like, well, there was no really rules for that in the game. But every other character I tried to make, I could make. And the weirder ideas I came up with was like, can I, you know, and then there'd be like challenges like find a good use for the bouncing power and make a character that is actually feasible using the bouncing power. And I came up with one who was a pretty feasible character or villain. So as we were playing and as I was making up villains and characters and NPCs for the GM and just experimenting with the system, I found that despite the strangeness, there was very few ideas I couldn't make as long as they were intrinsically inbuilt superheroes like mutants. But, you know, when you got into characters like, you know, Batman type characters, you could also build them because it was a very skilled system. But when you got to characters like, you know, I want to make Doctor Strange, or I want to make Iron Man, or I want to make this mad professor inventor, that's where the breakdown started. It didn't really have the rule set, or at least we found. Maybe it's true this is that you couldn't really, those characters were harder to build. But, you know, I built a character who had stretching and like a bunch of other weird powers that I sort of linked together and made a really, like stretching and water breathing and a couple other weird minor powers. And he was actually pretty playable and pretty feasible. So the best thing about it was you could make all these ridiculous characters or copies of Marvel or DC characters, and the system allowed them to play together on a semi-even, you know, playing field until my friend came up with the invisible speedster. That pretty much broke things, but still not as broken as, say, you know, 100d6 energy blast type things you could do with like systems like Champions. So while his like it was broken, eventually once the DM got a better handle of the system, he was able to come up with challenges that an invisible flaming speedster still felt problematic. The system still carries over things from the original Deadlands with, like, you know, jokers, and you can use dice or playing cards. It still has the bennies, you know, and you gain more bennies, and you can spend bennies to do amazing things, and the DM gets villain bennies that he can spend to do amazing things, which I think is pointless because the DM can cheat. So why does a DM need bennies? Because, you know, I'm a DM. I can cheat whenever the fuck I want. So, whatever. But still, Savage Worlds Necessary Evil and Savage Worlds' Superpower expansion is a really good, down-to-basic, very streamlined, plays very easy once you get your brain around the idea. The problem, at least for me, and maybe that's because I was dyslexic and I'm, you know, autism and just, you know, used to other more bell curve ideas, was the strange idea behind the dice and the D4, the D6, the D8, the D10. You could buy a power up to D10 or a skill up to D10, and, you know, the difficulties. But it works. It works. And once I got a handle on that, there wasn't any idea I couldn't build. So yeah, that's Savage World Superhero Necessary Evil. Is a pretty good game. It's not in my top 5. But it's definitely in my top 10, and I would play it again. I don't know if I'd run it because it was a little confusing for my brain, but yeah, check it out if you can find a copy of it. There you go, putting my money where my mouth is with a little insight into the short-lived Necessary Evil that became Necessary Evil 2, that became the Savage World Superpower System. I assume Savage World is still out because I occasionally see their products, so they're going to like huge mega things now, like they did Savage Worlds Rifts and Savage Worlds Lakemar, and the box was like the size of my body, and it was like $100. I was like, that's a little, but whatever. Good luck, you know, good on them for continuing to try. Check it out if you find a copy. Till next time, stay well, stay healthy. Talk to you later, losers. Happy Valentine's Day.